What's up, Life Group Leaders? Brian, I'm back again for another Titus video. So we are entering week 9, believe it or not, week 9 of our Titus Save for Good series. And so I think if there's anything you've learned through this series so far is that though Titus, it's this often overlooked and very short letter, it is rich and rooted with just simple truths, gospel doctrine, but also just practical applications that we're meant to live out if we're just going to be deeply formed disciples of Jesus who are faithfully present in our cultural moment. And so last week, JP did an incredible job on a really hard passage, just highlighting this truth that's just been since the very beginning of the letter of Titus, that what we believe should influence the type of people that we are. So the gospel, what we believe, truth, should impact the type of disciples that we are. That's been a theme since the very beginning. But Paul gets very specific last week where he just highlights even what you believe about Jesus and the gospel influences how you engage civilly. So in an age of tribalism and politicizing everything and cancelization, Christians should stand out in their gentleness, in their humility, and in their love for their enemies and even those they might disagree with, politically speaking. And so what a witness that would be to our cultural moment if Christians would actually embody that. So what Titus teaches us is that there's not an aspect of our life that Jesus isn't saying, I have authority over that area of your life. Even how you vote, I have authority over. And even how you view those who vote differently than you, I have authority over. And so, a rich passage, that challenges every single person, even 2,000 years later as we read it. But we move into week 9, and probably the most well-known passage in the book of Titus, and probably one of the most clear gospel passages in all of the scriptures. Though we know the gospel's everywhere in the Old and New Testament, I think Titus 3 does a really, really good job of just laying clear gospel truth to the reader. And so this passage, I think if there's an overarching main point, it's that God has saved you by His mercy so that you might live out good works. So God saved you, did it according to His mercy. He's the one who did it all so that you might live out good works. So it just matches the theme and really the name of this whole series. God saved you for good, not just your own good, but He's also saved you so that you might be good to those around you, and that Christians might be good to the community that they're a part of. And so this passage, it breaks down really into 3 simple points. It's a testimony that every Christian who's ever lived has, that this was your life before Jesus. You were disobedient and foolish. We were once like those people. It's the way Paul begins Ephesians 2, probably his most famous gospel presentation, by saying we were all once dead in our sin and children of wrath. That was every person who's ever existed. Outside of grace, that's who they are. And so we were once foolish, disobedient, led by our passions and desires, is how Titus 3 begins. But God saved us, not because of works done by us in righteousness. We did nothing. All we contribute to our salvation is the sin that made it necessary. And so what this passage says, it says, this is who you are before Christ. This is what God's done to save you. God saved you by His mercy, by His works that He's done on your behalf through the person and work of His Son. But not just there, He's also given you His Holy Spirit by the washing and regeneration of the Holy Spirit so that you might live out good works. And so this passage is just a testimony that every Christian has. This is my life before Jesus saved me. This is how God revealed to me the truth of the gospel and by His mercy saved me. And then this is how He's transformed my life through the power of the indwelling Holy Spirit. And so a passage that makes me really, really excited that our groups get to spend time just meditating on and reflecting on just the clear gospel presentation. Our people get to reflect on what God's done in their life, what their life was like before Jesus, and how God by His grace saved them, and then how He's transformed them. We get to actually meditate and reflect on that. I think a cool opportunity for some of our life group leaders to share their testimony in your life groups. because your testimony should kind of follow the train of thought of this passage. This was my life before Jesus. This is the sin I gave myself to. This is how God revealed himself to me and saved me. And then this is how God's transformed my life through the power of the Holy Spirit. And so there's a really cool opportunity for a leader or somebody in your group to share their story. But if there's anything that this passage is just going to give our groups an opportunity to, I'm not naive to think there's not lost people in our life groups. And what this passage does is it gets those people an opportunity to respond. They get to actually walk through systematically the message of the gospel, and then the Holy Spirit gives them a chance to respond. And so excited for what God's going to do in our life groups this week. Excited for us just to spend time meditating on the gospel, reflecting on God's goodness and mercy, and then seeing how the gospel isn't just about pardon, it's also our power, like Drew mentioned a few weeks ago. The gospel saves us, but God doesn't stop there. God has saved us so that we might bear fruits, so that we might walk in good works, so that Christians, as they seek to faithfully follow Jesus and embody the way of Jesus to the watching lost world, the lost might take notice. They might be impacted by it, and that they might want it for themselves. And so this passage, I think, just has so much gospel clarity to us, so much gospel truth for us, and just practical gospel application. And so I'm praying for you guys this week as you engage with this text. I'm expectant and excited for what God's going to do in your groups. And there's really only a couple more weeks left in this series, and then it's on to Advent. So hope you guys have a great week. We will be back next week. I'll see you then.